Respect is never requested, because the moment you ask for it, you reveal its absence. Approval can be negotiated, explained, even begged for. Respect cannot. It forms quietly in the space between what you tolerate and what you refuse. People do not decide to respect you because you want it. They decide because something in your presence tells them to adjust themselves. When someone feels the need to earn your attention rather than receive it freely, a silent shift occurs. That shift is respect, and it happens without conversation, permission, or announcement. It grows strongest where certainty replaces explanation entirely. Being liked too much feels safe, but safety has a hidden price. When everyone is comfortable around you, they stop being careful with you. Effort turns into expectation. Kindness becomes access. Over time, people take what is freely given and rarely protect what feels unlimited. This is why those who bend constantly feel overlooked. Their value becomes predictable, and predictability invites disregard. Respect fades not because you lack worth, but because you removed all friction that reminded others to treat you carefully. Nothing precious survives without boundaries that quietly signal consequence and limit careless familiarity before it. Forms fully now. Machiavelli understood that human nature responds less to words and more to signals. People study patterns, not promises. They watch who hesitates, who explains, who stands firm without display. To him, respect was never emotional. It was mechanical. Cause and effect. Those who governed themselves tightly required less force from others. This insight survives centuries because it reflects how people still think today. We instinctively measure strength by restraint, not noise, and authority by consistency, not charm. History repeats this lesson quietly, regardless of culture, status, or era. Power leaves traces long after personalities fade from memory entirely over time. People rarely challenge you directly. Instead, they test you in small, deniable ways. A late reply, a casual interruption, a joke that slightly crosses the line. These moments feel minor, but they are measurements. Others are checking how much resistance exists beneath your surface. When nothing pushes back, the tests continue, slowly escalating. In offices, families, and friendships, status is adjusted through these quiet probes. The observant notice them. The unaware excuse them. Respect grows or erodes not during confrontations, but during these ordinary moments where a response, or lack of one, silently defines your position within everyday social life. Niceness feels harmless, even admirable, yet it often removes the very signals that stop people from stepping too far. When you smooth every edge, others lose awareness of limits. They assume flexibility where none was offered. What begins as courtesy becomes permission. This is why consistently agreeable people experience repeated oversteps without understanding why. Their behavior taught others that correction would never come. Disrespect does not always arrive aggressively. It drifts in slowly, carried by familiarity, until one day you realize your space has been quietly occupied. No apology arrives. Only surprise remains later when patterns finally become visible clearly. Warmth and weight are often confused, but they operate differently under pressure. Warmth makes people comfortable. Weight makes people careful. One invites closeness, the other creates pause. Neither is wrong, yet only one holds authority when tension appears. Weight comes from consistency, boundaries, and calm certainty, not from distance or hostility. A person can be warm and still carry weight, but warmth without weight dissolves quickly. When decisions matter, people listen to the one whose presence alters behavior, not mood. This distinction explains why respect survives pressure while charm often fades once circumstances become demanding and unclear to everyone involved. Constant availability quietly lowers perceived value. When your time is always open, it stops feeling chosen and starts feeling assumed. People protect what requires adjustment, not what fits effortlessly. Answering instantly, agreeing reflexively, showing up without pause teaches others that your presence costs nothing. Over time, this shapes expectations you never intended. Detachment is not neglect. It is selectivity. When access becomes limited, attention sharpens. Others begin to notice timing, tone, and response. They read meaning into absence because meaning was removed from abundance. Value returns the moment people sense that engagement with you is earned, not automatic. This shift does not demand explanation, only patience and consistency over time as patterns settle and perceptions recalibrate naturally without force applied. Absence creates space, and space invites thought. When you are not constantly present, people fill the gap with interpretation. They reflect, anticipate, and adjust. This is not manipulation, but human nature responding to uncertainty. Strategic absence is calm and unannounced. It avoids dramatic exits or visible withdrawal. Instead, it allows silence to do quiet work. In that silence, your presence gains dimension. You are no longer a constant signal, but a variable. The mind respects variables. They require attention. Distance stretches perception, slowing interactions and deepening impact without confrontation or explanation. Over time, this measured absence stabilizes authority, reduces noise, and lets others meet you with prepared respect rather than casual familiarity formed slowly through restraint and deliberate timing choices. Distance does not require coldness. You can remain composed, attentive, and fair without dissolving into overexposure. Coldness punishes. Distance simply clarifies. It signals self-respect, not rejection. When people sense this distinction, resentment fades. They understand that access is guided, not denied. Calm tone, measured responses, and consistent standards keep relationships intact while preserving authority. The fear of being disliked often pushes people to overextend, yet respect rarely grows from reassurance. It grows from steadiness. When others feel you are grounded rather than withdrawn, they adapt willingly. This balance protects warmth while maintaining gravity, allowing connection without surrendering position or inviting unnecessary challenges that quietly erode influence over time and context. People pay closer attention to what they cannot fully predict. When someone behaves in completely readable ways, the mind relaxes and stops observing. Mystery restores focus. Not chaos, not inconsistency, but a subtle lack of full access. When reactions are not automatic, others pause before acting. They measure their words. They reconsider assumptions. This is why authority often feels quiet and hard to define. It is not loud enough to explain itself, yet not open enough to dismiss. Predictability feels safe, but safety invites disregard. When your behavior always follows the same emotional script, people learn how to push it. When they cannot fully read you, they move carefully. Respect grows in that carefulness, fed by uncertainty that signals depth rather than instability. This tension keeps interactions alert, forcing attention, slowing impulses, and creating a quiet gravity that naturally elevates your presence without explanation over time and across changing situations. Stability does not mean emotional sameness. It means predictable principles beneath flexible expression. Values stay fixed, reactions remain measured. When people know what you stand for but cannot predict how you will respond emotionally, balance forms. You are neither volatile nor transparent. This creates trust without inviting control. Stoic strength lives here. You do not react to provoke, impress, or soothe. You respond according to internal standards, not external pressure. Over time, others sense this alignment. They stop attempting to manage your mood and start adjusting their own behavior instead. Consistency of values anchors respect, while variation in response preserves depth. This combination signals self-command. It shows that you are guided, not driven. In uncertain moments, people look toward the one whose principles remain steady even as circumstances shift around them. That steadiness becomes a reference point others rely on when clarity is rare and decisions carry weight, quietly, consistently. Silence draws attention because it interrupts expectation. In rooms where voices compete, the quiet presence becomes noticeable without effort. People wonder what is being observed, what is being withheld. This curiosity turns into vigilance. The quiet person is not dismissed. They are monitored. Others listen more closely when they finally speak, because silence suggested intention rather than absence. What many mistake for shyness often signals self-containment. When you do not rush to fill space, you imply that space already serves you. That implication subtly elevates your position, shifting perception from passive to deliberate without a single word spoken by others. Words carry weight only when they are scarce. Constant explanation dulls impact, while restraint sharpens it. Speaking only when it changes the direction of a moment turns language into an event. People sense when someone is not talking to be seen, but to be precise. This discipline creates anticipation. Silence becomes the frame that makes words stand out. Over time, others stop interrupting, stop rushing, and start waiting. They adjust their pace to yours. Authority grows, not from volume, but from timing that shows you decide when meaning enters the room and silence begins, commanding attention naturally without effort now. Silence also shifts. Advantage by allowing others to expose themselves first. When you speak less, people fill gaps with opinions, explanations, and emotions. In doing so, they reveal priorities, insecurities, and intentions. You gain information without asking. This is not superiority through dominance, but through patience. Listening without reacting creates space for patterns to appear. The more others talk, the clearer their position becomes. Meanwhile, yours remains undefined, protected. This calm observation builds quiet control. You respond later with accuracy instead of impulse, leaving an impression of depth rather than noise that lingers long after interactions end in memory now. Strength loses power the moment it is announced. When you explain your value, you shift from position to persuasion. True competence does not need witnesses recruited in advance. It shows itself through calm decisions and clean results. People who speak loudly about ability often do so to control perception before reality arrives. This signals insecurity, not confidence. Silence, paired with capability, forces others to conclude strength on their own. That conclusion is more durable than any claim. Once people see you deliver without performance, they stop asking who you are and start adjusting how they treat you instead. Over time, restraint communicates mastery more clearly than any declaration ever could, especially in environments where everyone is competing for attention constantly. Results create authority because they remove debate. When outcomes appear, explanations become unnecessary. People trust what consistently works, even if they do not fully understand it. Allowing results to arrive before recognition requires patience and emotional control. It means resisting the urge to be seen early. Yet once outcomes speak, they speak louder than claims ever could. Others begin referencing your work without prompting. Your reputation moves ahead of you. This is long-term positioning. Recognition earned slowly lasts longer because it is built on evidence, not impression, and cannot be easily dismissed when pressure or doubt enters the room. Time becomes an ally when you allow proof to accumulate without interference. While others rush visibility and weaken their position prematurely, competence attracts demand, which can quietly turn into exploitation if unchecked. Being useful earns respect only when usefulness has limits. When you solve every problem, people stop valuing the problem solver. Selective contribution protects authority. You help where impact matters and decline where it erodes position. This requires calm refusal without explanation. Over time, others learn your effort is intentional, not automatic. Respect survives because access remains conditional. You are seen as capable, not convenient. This balance keeps influence intact while preventing resentment from forming beneath constant obligation. Clear limits preserve energy and ensure your contributions remain associated with strength rather than availability, which ultimately sustains long-term respect across changing dynamics. Emotional reactions hand control to the other person. The moment your tone shifts, your posture tightens, or your words rush, attention moves away from the behavior and onto you. Status drops because emotion suggests impact. It tells others they reached you. Even justified anger weakens position when displayed. Calm, however, reverses the dynamic. It creates uncertainty. People expect reaction. When it does not arrive, they question themselves. Detachment is not suppression. It is choosing not to advertise disturbance. When you remain steady, disrespect loses momentum. Without resistance to feed on, it collapses quietly, leaving you unchanged while the other person feels exposed instead. Not every slight deserves the same response. Sometimes correction is required, delivered plainly and without edge. A simple statement, timed well, reasserts boundaries without drama. Other times, withdrawal is stronger. Silence after disrespect can speak more clearly than confrontation. The key is intention. Calm correction maintains clarity. Silent withdrawal removes reward. Both protect composure. Neither seeks victory in the moment. They aim to shape future behavior. When responses are measured, interactions stay forward-moving. You avoid escalation while still signaling limits. Over time, people learn which lines cannot be crossed, not because of force, but because reaction is never chaotic or predictable. Disrespect becomes uncomfortable when it is not met with emotion, but with composure and presence. A steady look, a pause before responding, a neutral question that redirects attention back to the behavior. This creates psychological friction. The other person feels the weight of their action without you naming it. They become Awkwardness replaces confidence. This is quiet dominance. You do not correct loudly or punish aggressively. You allow their behavior to sit in the open, unsupported. Most people retreat from that exposure quickly. In doing so, they adjust themselves, while you remain unchanged, centered, and clearly beyond reaction. Respect is not granted in a single interaction. It accumulates silently, shaped by countless choices, small gestures, and the consistency of your presence over time. One impressive act does not create enduring authority. A moment of anger does not erase years of composure, nor does fleeting charm build lasting regard. Reputation is constructed slowly, like a landscape molded by wind and water. Each decision either reinforces or erodes it. People notice patterns before they notice words. When your behavior aligns with principle rather than impulse, your standing solidifies. The future becomes the measure of influence. Short-term applause fades, but a reputation rooted in steadiness, discipline, and quiet competence endures. Those who seek immediate recognition often sacrifice this slow strength for temporary visibility. To hold true respect, patience must govern action, and presence must speak louder than explanation. Every interaction becomes a thread woven into a broader tapestry that signals authority without demand or display, teaching others to anticipate, acknowledge, and align themselves with your steadiness naturally, to become someone others adjust themselves around. You cultivate predictable principles and deliberate boundaries without announcing them. Your decisions ripple outward quietly, influencing behavior before commands or explanations are necessary. People begin to measure their words, to pause before acting, and to anticipate the consequences of their choices in your presence. This is not fear. It is recognition of measured influence. Over time, your gravity shapes interactions effortlessly. Others bend around your steadiness, not because you demand compliance, but because your position is clear, controlled, and inevitable. Authority emerges in the gaps you leave unfilled, in the silence you maintain, and in the outcomes you deliver consistently. Those who notice begin adapting instinctively, aligning themselves without overt pressure. In mastering this long game, respect ceases to be something you seek and becomes a force that naturally surrounds you, elevating presence, focus, and influence quietly yet unmistakably across all areas of life.